of who we are.
This meeting is being recorded.
I would like to begin a quick introduction of who we are before I introduce our key speaker. Quality Classroom is an educational supply company with more than 25 years of experience. We support early years educators with learning supply at the best possible price, which is backed by our unbeatable price guarantee. And in case you don't know yet, if you find a lower price for the same item from any Canadian supplies company, we'll beat that price by 10% off the difference. You also see above my background on the screen, there's a list of our social media handles. We provide educational and funny content plus updates about our sales and products. We also do giveaway every 2 weeks. So follow us for your chance to win. All right, before I introduce our key speaker, just have 2 things to notice here. Number one, we're having a giveaway, a $2,500 Nature to Play set at the end of this webinar. Please stay until the end so I can select and pick the winner. Number one. Number two, can you please put your first name and last name as the display name? This will help me in selecting the winner, and I will only select people who put their first name and the last name as the display name. Thank you. All right. Back to the introduction. Our key speaker today is Dr. Beverly Dietz. She is an educator and a researcher in the early childhood education sector for many years. She is an author and co-author of 8 textbooks on early childhood education and is the publisher of the Play Outdoor magazine. She is a well-known Canadian speaker who presents on many topics, including the importance of children having access to high outdoor play experience. Me personally, I had the pleasure to interview Dr. Dietz before, and even I learned so much from her. And I hope that you will all feel the same thing today. Thank you for listening, and I'll pass on to Dr. Beverly Dietz. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those fabulous words. And as my brother likes to say, I have been the playgirl of the family. And I always like to say to him, no, actually, I've been the outdoor playgirl of the family. So outdoor play has been very important to me. And this evening, we are going to have some dialogue on sparking children's curiosity in the great outdoors. It is always interesting to me when we have an opportunity to come together to look at outdoor play and look at how we can take what we are currently doing, and by making a few changes to our environment, how it can further enhance children's play. Before I actually turn to the presentation, I always like to tell this story of my neighbors next door. When I first moved in, there were 2 little munchkins that lived next door, and they would come to visit us every Sunday morning. We would have potato chips for them at 9 a.m. in the morning. So I'm not going to be talking about healthy food choices this evening, but we would provide them with potato chips, and they would come in and they would chat. How was your week? And they only had 20 minutes. They're on, these children that have their days scheduled quite heavily. And the little munchkin said, I learned all about the brain this week, Miss Beverly. And I said, really? She said, yes, I learned there was a left side of the brain and a right side of the brain. She said, did you know that? And I said, well, tell me more, because I wanted to see where she was going to take this story. And she said, yes, Miss Beverly. And every time you learn something new, did you know you get a new wrinkle? I said, I didn't know that, Miss Maya. And then she, of course, broke out laughing. So although some of us may not want new wrinkles, I hope this evening that you'll go home with a new wrinkle, which means there will be something in the presentation that you can take home with you and think about as you work with children. I'm going to now try and share my screen. We did a check-in with this before and it worked. So I'm hoping it's going to work again. It's always the presenter's nightmare. Is it going to work or not? And I'm going to ask someone to tell me what they are seeing. Are you seeing the presentation? Hopefully.
Yes, I can see the presentation.
Great. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
I see it.
Thank you. Thank you. That's terrific. So as I indicated, we are going to be looking at the curiosity piece of children and how we can bring that sense of curiosity to children in the great outdoors. And I always like us to think about imagine the possibilities. So imagine those of you that worked with children today, the possibilities that you had with the children, and what might those possibilities look like tomorrow. I do want to acknowledge that I'm coming to you today from the traditional and unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan people, and I'm very grateful to be here and thankful for all of our first responders, our firefighters that supported us so very much during the latest fires in Kelowna and West Kelowna. It has been a very challenging time, and it has helped us to understand how important supporting children in learning about our environment and sustainability can be. I'm really grateful to Quality Classrooms for providing me with this opportunity. And we formed this relationship a few years ago, actually, as I started the adventure of the Play Outdoors magazine, and we've been partnered since that time. I want to begin by having us look at the cycle of curiosity, because this really helps us to figure out the importance of outdoor play for children and what that really looks like. So when we think about the cycle of curiosity, this helps us to inform the types of materials and opportunities that we provide the children with. So it is very important that when we think about children going outside, the first thing they will do when they see something new or they see something that's really intriguing to them is they're going to explore it. They're going to use their hands. If they're little wee munchkins, they might be putting it in their mouths, but they have to explore it. They have to figure it out. And it's usually that sensory experience that they engage in for that exploration. Once they have had that opportunity, then it gets into that sense of wonderment and questions. So we need to provide them with the time to be able to actually look at that exploration piece so that they can imagine the possibilities. And from there, once they've had that wonderment and questions, some of which we won't know about, they will verbalize, or they won't verbalize them to us. They will think about that on their own. They then begin to engage in experimentation. So they'll try this, they'll try this, they'll try this. And as you can see in the photos that we have here, this is the first time that the little munchkin was exposed to snow. So she really had to explore it and think about it. And then she had that wonderment, how and what do I do with it? What can I do with it? So she's experimenting and discovering if she puts her hands together and really packs it together, she can make a snowball. And then, as you will see in the next portion, the more she puts it on the ground, the more she's able to experiment and get a different result. So she's testing repetition to test discovery. And when we think about repetition, that means that children need to have time. So we had this sense a few years ago that we had to put something new out every day for the children. Put this out, and we were always changing the environment. But our research is telling us now that we need to ensure that children have opportunities to use the materials in multiple ways and that repetition so that they can engage in new discoveries. Once they have been able to prove their trial and error piece, if I want this result, this is what I need to do, then they will start to figure out what are some new ideas, what are some new skills and learning that I can engage in. So this really helps us then to understand the programming experiences and the ways in which we set up the outdoor environment to support the children in having the repetition, the new ideas, and the confidence and security. Once children are really comfortable, this little munchkin knows she can make a snowball now. She knows that she can use a shovel to move that snowball. It gives her confidence and security. And that's when she will try new ideas and new questions. If we do not support the children in having that repetition, if we don't support them with the time, it is less likely that they will engage in that deep thinking and that exploration piece that is so important to children and their learning. So very important that we look at that in the experiences that we provide the children with. We are also really connected to the 21st century skills. And what we're trying to do is support children, whether they're infants, toddlers, preschool, school-age children, to become engaged thinkers in whatever they are doing. We want them to really think deeply. What does this mean? What can you do with it? What are you thinking about this? Have you thought about this? What would happen if you did this or this? So always really important that we offer such opportunities. We want to really support children in that ethical citizen piece. So what is it that we are doing that's bringing culture into the environment? What types of materials are we offering the children so that they have an understanding of culture and that they are becoming part of their community, the community culture? And we want them to have that entrepreneurial spirit. So often when we think of young children, we will work with the children to set up a store, perhaps in the dramatic center, or we'll have them thinking about what is it they can do? What is it that you want to sell to me today, or whatever those pieces are, to get that entrepreneurial spirit. So it's that cycle of curiosity and the 21st century skill that informs the work that we do with children. And again, when I think about this, it doesn't matter what the age of the child is, it is supporting them in that critical thinking, that problem solving, that opportunity to develop cooperative skills. You know, we think of the joyfulness that children bring to us. We want them to have those experiences. Well, what is it in the environment that is offering children such fabulous experiences? And how are we as adults supporting the children in those key opportunities? If any of you have been to a presentation with me before or are involved in our magazine, you know that I'm a proponent of children having cameras, that children look at their environments very different when they are taking photos. By children having opportunities to use cameras, we are supporting them in their observation skills, and they are looking at things very closely, which is what they need for that, to build that math and science skill. And then that increases their language and literacy opportunities. So this evening, in our short time together, I am going to share with you why outdoor play is important and how we can use materials in unique ways. I want to bring that math and science piece to life because right now we know that that is an area of concern for children from the perspective of how they are managing math and science, not only in the school when they get to school, but the younger ages. And then think about the roles of adults. What is it we bring together? And how can we support children in having fabulous experiences in the great outdoors? I know for many of you, you are joining us at dinner time. Some of you may be getting ready for a good night's snack. This is the best I can do. Some fabulous muffins.
Beverly, I'm sorry for interrupt. There's just a few people that has been messaging me that they cannot join, and it seems like the cap of participant is at 100. Can you please take a moment to check that?
No, it's 400.
It's 400. I because I got emails in my inbox and even some people texting me that they can't join. Maybe.
Oh, that is.
Even in the comment section, someone said the same thing. Can you please see if somebody's in the waiting room?
Yeah, there's no one in the waiting room.
Oh, okay.
Okay, how are we going to manage this?
Just continue your presentation and I'll take a look at it. Thank you, Beverly.
Okay.
Yep.
And so here are the goodies that we have available. So I want you to think about hula hoops and how we use hula hoops. We often think, oh, hula hoops are for the summer or maybe the spring. That becomes something that we use in the spring and summer. I want you to think about other seasons, what they might look like. How can we increase opportunities for hula hoops to be used throughout the seasons? So in the chat, tell me how we might be able to use hula hoops in another way. Just put in the chat box what you were thinking. How could we use the hula hoops in another way? Obstacle course, that's fabulous. Tunnels, yes. Windows for snowball throwing, throwing bean bags in, absolutely. Ribbons, decorate them. Absolutely, really good opportunities for us to be thinking about how to do so. A hopscotch, yeah, sports. Roll it from one place to another place. So again, when we think about this, what I'm seeing in the chat is that your hula hoops really become a seasonal, an all-season piece of apparatus. So it is important that we look at them and say, what is it we can do? Zones to capture the flag, making figurines, all really good examples. We want to be thinking about them from a math and science perspective. And when we look at supporting children in looking at items very carefully, and we want them to be looking at those science pieces, when we put hula hoops out with a basket of materials, then you can see again how children might use the combination of the hula hoop with a magnifying glass and really get them to look very, very closely. So really important that we do so. Or we might put the hula hoops out with cardboard and paper just to see what children do. Some children may want to have markers and figure out what they do with them there and how that can support them. Some of you already identified that you could use them for decorating. Sometimes we put them on rope and that becomes part of the obstacle course. Sometimes we will put them on and then get the children jumping through. Really important when we think of our dynamic winters that we have and how we can actually increase opportunities for that physical movement. Really, really important for us to think how we can move that forward. Okay, so we've just had another person come to the waiting room and we've been able to admit that person.
ló bá ń gòkè ní sọ̀kalẹ̀ gbogbo wọdúrópù kitchen ìgbàgà ti toilet kí ló dé.
Can you actually mute your mic, please? And then we.
mo dẹ̀ sọ fún pé kó má da toilet roll sí.
Okay, I'm going to have to try.
àárẹ̀ ó tún tilẹ̀kùn toilet yẹn pa ni nígbà tí máa ṣí báyìí gbogbo inú ilé ń rùn ni máa ṣílẹ̀ má jẹ́ kí mòdì wà ní inú ilé ó máa ń pàdé ni.
There we go. And so again, look at how we can use the snow to make that happen. And then it takes us to magnifying glasses. And again, magnifying glasses are magical. They're really, really important for us to think about with children because we often, again, put these out as summer materials. But when you look at the magnifying glasses that are here, what is it you see immediately? What are you looking at? What is intriguing to you? Anyone? Can you tell us when you look at these, what you're thinking of? The reflection, yes, like that's very, very interesting when we see the reflections. And I wouldn't really have thought about that until I was actually preparing this and seeing this for my, or with my own eyes, that here, when we take out magnifying glasses, this becomes another way in which we can offer opportunities for children to, of course, follow their interests with the magnifying glasses, and then think about how we bring in that discussion with reflection. And we really, from a scientific perspective, want children to see this, and for educators to see this as moments of science. And when we look at this, Rubin identifies that it's that inquiry approach, and that we respond to everyday moments of looking. So that looking piece is very important to us, looking closely at nature rather than following the script. So how can we do that? And when we look at magnifying glasses and combining the magnifying glasses with measuring tapes, imagine how that brings new dialogue with the children. Think about how we can look at sizes and shapes and things in the environment by using magnifying glasses and rulers and measuring tapes, and using our fence as part of our play opportunities for children. So at this time of year, we really want to be offering children the magnifying glasses because they can see the patterns on the leaves as the ice starts to form. Imagine how it looks with the magnifying glass. Those of you that will be putting pumpkins out for the children to explore. I don't know if you've looked at the pumpkins through a magnifying glass. It's a very different approach. It allows the children to see the frames and the veins of a pumpkin. The colors of the rocks are very different when children are using the magnifying glass to look at it. It really lets them look closely. And take your magnifying glass and go on a fall spider web to see what you can find. So we do this as a strategy to support the children in seeing nature across the seasons and using the materials as an investment. So we don't buy the magnifying glasses and then put them away for until next spring. We really want to have them as part of our overall opportunity for children. And when we take them out in the various seasons, it allows the children to draw upon what they have previously learned and been able to take that learning and then incorporate it into other environments for them. We often look at the light box. That's a very popular experience for children and in programs, but we're often doing the light box indoors. And when we think about the opportunity to look at light and look at shadows, it's a very different experience for children when it is done outdoors. So when we look at the light box, it's that comparative piece. This is what happens when we use it indoors. And how does it differ for children? How does the experience differ when we take it outside? And then as our role as educators, how can we actually have discussions with the children? Why is it different? What do you see that is different? So that they are becoming very familiar with their environment. They will put very different things on the light box outdoors from indoors. And again, we want that flexibility of learning with the children. We often have these types of materials in our indoor environments that they're very exciting, they're reflective. And I want you to think about what happens when you take these materials outdoors. So look at them. You probably all have used these with the children or thought about them in some way. I want you to tell me in the chat what you think would happen if you take them outside. Let's see if we can get 2 or 3 ideas of what might happen outside. So color contrast, they can see the sun reflect. Yes, absolutely. What else might they see when you extend these materials? The color categorizing. And Vanessa, that's a really important piece because children's brains work very differently outside. And it is a much better way for them to be able to categorize color. They see it in much more depth and breadth, and they'd collect and transfer them. They would have comparison opportunities. So again, this really helps us to move this piece forward. Shapes, so shapes in nature, relating colors to outside items. Emily, that's a really important one as well, that we have the children trying to find these colors outside. Doing a color outdoor scavenger hunt can be very, very helpful. So we want to be sure that when we think of our materials that we have indoors, what might the learning experiences be outdoors? And again, if you take these out in the winter, it will be a very different experience, particularly if you have snow and the children are engaging in creating particular items with the snow. Okay. And then this leads us to say, if the children were looking at colors, if they were looking at the whole notion of light and dark and reflections, what other materials, what might we offer the children? So those of you that have tables with mirrors, how can you encourage children to embark on using that as an art canvas? Or how do you support children in seeing those reflections? And then perhaps they may want to actually participate in documenting some of that by having your clipboards and your notes there. And then when we think about sink and float, we often have sink and float in a container where the children are looking down. If we look at doing sink and float with items where the children can actually see the process, and again, what you will see here is the small mirrors. And we put the mirrors in the sink and float so that there's that reflective piece. So it started by us looking at it from the perspective of these ideas, the light box, and building upon that whole sequence of scaffolding the children's learning through using these types of materials. So again, building on that reflective piece, what is fascinating is to have the magnifying glasses nearby, having the mirrors, having the children have different types of materials that they can use. And what I have seen children do is take the magnifying glasses and then have the mirrors, and they're trying to figure out how that tree got there. So it's that sense of, how is this happening? How come I didn't put the tree on there? Where is the tree? So it's that exploratory piece. This is a really interesting piece for us to have discussion on, and someone is going to be very, very fortunate at the end of this evening. So I want you to look at these pieces, and what do you see? What do you think? What are the children going to do? How are you going to use those pieces? And let's get 3 or 4 ideas into the chat. Gardening, yes, there might be some gardening. Sensory table, obstacle course, yes. Fill the sensory table with sand, rocks, leaves. Water play, trajectory is a really important one. Sand with hidden treasures, might be for cars. It could be a mud table or a mud kitchen, climb over and under. So again, what you have so nicely articulated is that sometimes we see these materials for what we purchase them for, that it's a water table, it's a sand table, it's a water funnel. But in fact, what we want to offer the children is absolutely those uses. And then we want to be thinking about how we can further expand the opportunities so that children see that flexibility in opportunity. What is it that they can do? You want them to become very familiar with the materials, and then how can you redefine the use of the materials so that you too have that opportunity for stimulation, that you're seeing items in very different ways. So this is primarily a water table, water sand table. Sometimes it is used with mud and water to do a combination. What else might you do just with this piece of apparatus if you had it? Let's get some ideas in the chat. Oh, we're going to go fishing. We're going to go collecting. Yes. You might want to put some boats in it, build boats and put in it. The development of their upper body strength for OT by leaning in and out. So you're seeing that child development piece. Oh, apple bobbing. That's a great one for this time of the season, and bubbles and snow and ice. So what I'm seeing you identify is that we do need to think about these items in very different ways and how you do use them across the seasons. And so when I think about these, we're very much into supporting that versatility and how we can use these items in different ways. And I give you examples on here where you may want to work with the children to make small worlds. And that small world piece is a vital component for the fine motor that we're supporting. And when children are mixing and matching some of the materials, again, it helps them to bring that culture piece to the environment, and it changes who might be around the water table in the play experience. And you do want to be thinking about the benefit of this, that they see the water table and how it is used, and then how they can bring forth different types of play. So this using small world is one example. You will see here that we have used rocks for part of this. You would have to ensure that the children are, of course, old enough to understand that they're not to put the rocks in their nose or their ears or wherever. And some people will use food in these small world pieces. I prefer not to do that because I'm very concerned about food insecurity. So some people say, oh, Beverly, you've put beans, but they're not beans, they're actual rocks from the garden center. Again, when we look at this, someone mentioned bubbles. Well, this is a fabulous, fabulous piece of apparatus to put your bubble materials in, and of course, use your bubble wands. This, of course, is a summer photo, but when we look at bubbles, bubbles will last much longer outdoors in the fall and the winter. So if you have this piece of apparatus out all year, see what happens when you have children blowing bubbles all year round. And then again, you can see how this piece of apparatus can change when we actually put some ice in it. And, this is a really good time of year to put ice in it with the children because it's not too cold. Their fingers are not going to freeze, and it's that play value. And we will often do this in the fall, and then because children will have had that experience, they will then use it in the winter for different sceneries. So a really good way to advance opportunities for the children. And so this piece of apparatus, it can be used for multiple pieces. It can be supports to the materials. It can have lots of play value. Think about, again, how it can be used in different ways. So I don't actually have this piece of apparatus, but what I'm trying to do is show you how it could be flipped up on its side, and then it becomes a display piece. So part of your provocations that you're using with children, how can you set it up? How can you use these kinds of materials so children see the versatility? And when we think about provocations and setting up the environment, it is important that we do some 3D dimensions with the children, that they see items that don't go together to be put on the display, because that helps them with that engaged thinking piece and the versatility that is necessary to support children in advancing their thinking. And again, we've, taking the same concept to flip it up and put a display. As you can see, we had a bit of snow when this display was done. So look at your play spaces and say, how could I use this? How could I support children in identifying how it can be used in multiple ways? A very important piece for us when we're trying to offer that sense of curiosity for children. And I assume that many of you don't have large budgets for materials. And as a result, we really want to look at the versatility and opportunity to use the materials in different ways that will really stimulate children. So when we look at these pieces, again, some incredible play value, and some had identified what might happen, how you could use these in different ways. When I look at these pieces, I think, what are the new language opportunities? So when we look at them from a math and science perspective, what I'd like you to do in the chat is to put some words, some of those sciencey words that children might be exposed to when they have an opportunity to engage with this apparatus. Measurement, density, cause and effect, keep going. Yes, gravity, keep going. 3D, pouring, flow. Yes, volume, keep going. Some of our classmates still cannot participate. What should they do? It says the participants are full. I'm perplexed by that because we have been able to continue to admit people, so we are over the 100. What we can do is send them the recording, and we will certainly honor those folks that watch the recording and let us know, and we will get them their certificate. Big, small, weight, angles, balance, bigger, biggest. So that comparison, velocity, floating, sink, float. So when you look at these pieces, look at all of those words and the concepts that you are identifying. These are really important for us to incorporate into our language and opportunities with the children. And so, you have many of the words that are important. You may want to further expand and think about zigzagging and thinking about flow and patterns and ripples. So look at those new words that you can bring to the children, such as ripples. Look at the ripples that are happening. Look at the capacity or the conservation. Swish, swish, swish. So not only is there play value there, but there's great opportunity for that storytelling to occur. We want to be thinking about our outdoor environments in a way that we put many materials together that offer freedom for children to explore, freedom for children to take their interests and try and figure out what it is they can do in their space. We want items that don't necessarily go together. We want items that children have to carry. We want them using their large muscle because that keeps them warm. We want them to have items that they can build with, that they can construct horizontally and vertically so that it reinforces the thinking and learning that they can engage in. We want to be thinking about how we display the materials. So it is important to look at the fabric. How can you bring fabric into the environment? It's a sensory piece. It is a component when children are outside that gives them new options and opportunities to have that space and place, particularly for children that may need to have time away from the group. When these types of displays are available, it gives them that sense that they can go forth and be in that space and still be part of the play. When we look at this, and it's really, I commend Cole for helping us understand the importance of the three concepts of growing, thinking, and connecting. And for those of us that are working with children, we do want to be thinking, how are the children being encouraged to explore? What is it in our environment that is encouraging the children to explore? What is stopping them? What is it in our environment that we could redefine? What is our role? Are we supporting the children in that exploration? Are we stopping them? Are we using language that encourages them to look and to wonder and to think about? And then the thinking piece. What are we doing that encourages the children to think and to use previous knowledge with current experiences? And again, that's why I really wanted to have some discussions this evening as to how you take materials and use them across the seasons and how you look at them and say, what is the versatility? How can I bring this versatility of opportunity to the experience? And then how are you connecting children to the educators? How are children connecting with others? How are they connecting to nature? And what is stopping them from those connections? And sometimes our environment just isn't right. Sometimes it's stale. Sometimes it just doesn't offer that intrigue for the children with the children. So we have to look at that and say, what is it we can do differently that would offer those opportunities? When we think about the fall, we often get far more wind in the fall, and that gives us a great opportunity again to support children in learning about the seasons. So these ribbons, the magic wands, as we like to call them, are very, very important materials to have this time of year, because it helps children to figure out, is it a strong wind? And these are the sciencey pieces that we're bringing into our discussions. What is it we need to do to make it blow or to make it flow in the wind? Then what happens if the children have used these materials and the next day they go out and we've brought that versatility to the children to perhaps have ribbons from the trees or from a rope, so that the children rethink what they might be able to do with these ropes or with these ribbons. And remember that many children, this is a way in which they get great comfort, the feeling of them. And of course, what children will do is take these and it becomes a running game. It becomes very unique play for the children. And then if we take it one step further, children may, if you have loose ribbon, after they've had these play experiences, they may want to make their journey sticks or their wandering sticks, whatever one likes to call them. And you may expand that further to have children engage in art on the fence using ribbons. And what happens is children will go back and forth But it generally starts when we think about putting out the initial provocation of the material. And again, when we think of this time of year and the actual wind that's going to be blowing, we want to be thinking about parachutes. And I want you to tell me what else you can do with a parachute. What is it all year round you can do with a parachute? So let's get some ideas in the chat. What is it you can do? Make forts. Okay, forts, tents. Yes, keep going. Keep going. Hiding. Absolutely. Hide and seek. Games. Yes. Cat and mouse game. Okay, so when we look at this, the ball games, yes, and having the children do the ball games, use it as a mat to read on, dancing games, pile leaves on top. Oh, wouldn't that be fun, Catherine? Collecting leaves. Take the children for a ride, make a kite or a sail, a twister. So look at this and think about it. And one of the pieces that we look at in the winter is how can we get the children moving? And I absolutely love to take the parachute and then have children make snowballs and put the snowballs on the actual parachute instead of the ball. And remember, when we're using the parachute with the children, we want to ensure that they're going up and down, that they can't just stand there and do this, but you want them bending up and down so that you're getting that body movement happening and the warmth piece that is so, so important to us. Now, when you're putting materials out, think about how you're displaying them. What is it that you can do? And for many of us, we're starting to put our gardens to bed for the winter. So you might want to be cutting some of the pieces from your garden or asking the families if they are cutting back some of their plants. And you want to try and save some of those so that you bring them out in the winter or in all seasons, actually, and children will use them in different ways. So what you're doing is sharing with the children that life cycle of a plant and then how they become versatile. What are you putting out that will attract the children to the space? So, do a basket with leaves, put some items in it and see how it draws the children to the materials. These are interesting pieces of apparatus. We often see them as items for the children to crawl in. Again, I want you to think about them from a winter perspective. What is it that you can do? What would you do with these to make them more applicable in the winter to the summer? Let's get some ideas. What might you do with them? Get some ideas in the chat. Make a skating rink. Okay, that would be interesting. An igloo. Yes, that's a great idea. Another person thinking of an igloo. Imprints in the snow. Oh, that would be fun. And collecting the snow. So collecting the snow and putting it within. The snow fort. Yes. Chop or shovel with it. Snowshoes. That would be fun. Any other ideas? A restaurant play. Making shapes with the snow and then color like paint, making new shapes from the windows. Yeah, that's an interesting one as well. For some of us, we take these types of materials and we will actually make them as what we call warming huts. So we'll have the children build these and then we put blankets inside so that the children can actually move forth and go in and out of them when they are cold. And the blanket makes it a very cozy spot. So a way in which we can bring some of the elements of the outdoors to allow us to support children in their outdoor experiences. So really, really important from that perspective. So as you think about all of this information, what is the role of the adult? What do you think? What are you thinking? What are some of the aha moments that you're thinking about at this point in time? What are you taking away from this, from the perspective of the importance of us looking at outdoor play, from the perspective of that sense of curiosity? So letting the children explore, encourage the imaginative play, multi-use, time for the ideas to be formed and executed, really important. And then providing those materials for exploration are very important. The learning through play, and that is the richest way in which we can move forth. Mixing the materials between seasons, the probing questions, items aren't restricted to certain places. Yes, Joanne, thank you for sharing that. And bringing the inside materials out, spontaneous use, asking the open-ended, love following their lead and seeing where it's go. I'm asking myself why I put things away because it's winter. Yeah, we do that. The involvement with nature and engagement, thinking outside the classroom. So that too is a very, very important piece for us, thinking outside of what we normally do. We did have a couple of questions that I wanted to respond to. And one is, how do you keep older children engaged in outdoors? And that's a really important question for us. It is primarily the materials that we offer the children outdoors. That is absolutely a vital piece for us. It's the way in which we set up the provocations. And it is a way in which we get them to engage in new experiences. So for many children that are into technology, that's when we say to them, let's go out and do some, get some cameras. Let's get some photos. I need you to do a scavenger hunt and we're looking for this. Can you capture this? And really get involved from that perspective. Some children don't know how to play at this point. So when that happens, we have to take the lead and gradually coach them to see some of the key pieces that they can do in the space. Have them engaged in drawing, have them engaged in drawing maps of where we can go and how we might get there. We see parents and children under 6 having a hard time getting outdoors. And again, that's part of our society. And that's why we as educators need to be role modeling to the children. How can we make this happen? Why do we have such enthusiasm when we go outside? I really need you to help me do this when we go outside. Or did you see what I saw with the magnifying glass? Can you find that? So we have to be the role models for families and to offer them materials that will help them actually understand the importance of outdoor play. And one of the key pieces of messages that we want to share with families is children that are outdoors, that are engaged in outdoors, have higher academic performance. They have less attention deficit issues. They are able to concentrate far more, and there is a reduction in illness. When we support families in understanding that outdoor play is where children develop the foundations for math and science skills, that helps us to articulate to the families that we are investing in children's academic performance later when we actually have children outdoors. And so with that, as we look at where we've been, I hope that we have had an opportunity to identify why outdoor play is important, and that you have taken some ideas away of how you can use materials in unique ways. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And I would be happy to answer any questions. And then I'm going to turn it back to my partner. Any questions, any thoughts, any aha moments that you would like to share?
Does anybody have any question for Beverly? You can unmute your mic, you can ask her, or you can write it in the chat box.
How do you prevent older children from making everything a pretend weapon in a pretend battle? They almost always make open-ended items, axes, whatever, to fight the monsters. I probably have a very different perspective on that. If that's the play that children need, and it is often the play that they need because it's that rough and tumble play, like that's really what they are doing. And that's how they build up their self-regulation skills. That's how they know how far I can push and pull. And as a result of that, it's also the touching, because remember, we're not allowed to touch children anymore, and they really require that. So that type of play actually supports them in self-regulation, executive functioning skills, and that team approach. What I might do is identify, today we're looking for folks to have cameras. What can you do with cameras? Or I'm looking for someone that can help me build this, to gradually play through or engage in that play. Embrace it and set boundaries, as Lindsay has identified. Don't fight it. Absolutely. Just let them play. That's what they need at this point in time. And remember, they're learning all kinds of math and language skills when they do that. How to change manipulative play to bad guys and fighting into more positive. Well, again, the bad guys is what they're seeing on television. It's seeing what they're talking, what is on the games, etc. And so you may want to say on Tuesdays, the people or the people in the game must be this. Like you could do some fun, creative pieces of identifying Tuesdays. It's this in the game, etc. To try and move it from there. I am going to turn it over. I'm going to. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, everybody, for joining. The recordings and certification will be sent to you soon. And regarding technical issues we have today, I apologize for it. We apologize for it. And please tell your friend who cannot join the webinar to email us, and we'll find a way to make up to you. Thank you very much. And for the most important part of today, while Beverly was doing a meeting, I was organize you guys and put a number, and then pull out the random lucky name. And I will announce right now, the winner of the $2,500 Nature to Play set is Pamela Rose. Congratulations. I will put your name in the chat section. Please stay until the end of the webinar. And I will invite you in the chat room to talk more about this. Thank you very much. And have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, everyone.